So we covered eat the right amount was rule one. Eat the right foods in the right ratios. And now let's talk about, timing properly. And the goal here with timing is that the stomach's got to be empty, but at the same time, you got to fill your fuel tanks all the way. You want to top those off, and you want to be fully hydrated. So for your events and workouts, general rule as is, the bigger the meal, right? The longer amount of time you're going to leave yourself to empty your stomach and make sure your fuel tank is full. So 4 to 6 hours before, or a lighter meal 2 to 3 hours before. So regular, larger meal, right? Give yourself more time. Or if you're going to go lighter, 2 to 3 hours before. And then some athletes, oftentimes, especially if you're an endurance event or you're competing multiple times a day, you want to go with a pre-workout snack 30 minutes to an hour before. I'm a fan of a liquid snack or a bar that has carbohydrates and protein that's easily to digest. Your body just breaks it down really quickly. But the exact timing is going to depend on the individual. I know people don't like to hear that. They want black and white, but it just has a lot to do with the individual and what they tolerate. And a lot of trial and error is required. Keep in mind, your muscle glycogen can be depleted up to 40% after a single bout of resistance exercise, or, after a basketball game. A lot of times in basketball, they play back to back to back. And so you do want to make sure that in between games, you're getting some source of carbohydrate, or, if it's a track meet, you're doing multiple events, same thing. Now, for those people who are exercising or competing early in the morning, a couple options for you would be, okay, eat a large pre-exercise meal the night before, whether it's your pasta meal or your, chicken and potatoes and veggie meal for dinner. And then in the morning, go with something that's rapidly digested and go with a lighter snack, like, a bagel with peanut butter, shake for rapid digestion with carbohydrates with a little bit of protein. I know I'm giving you guys a lot, right? But if you want a copy of the deck, we'll also make sure it's available so you have it all. But what about after exercise? What are the guidelines after exercise? Well, if it's greater than 60 minutes, what's going to happen to your fuel tanks, right? They're going to be depleted. So and if you've got to work out again, or if you're, a competitive athlete and you want to train the next day, which is often the case, you're going to want to replenish those glycogen stores. So the general guideline is you want to eat 2 to 3 times more carbs than protein to refill up your glycogen stores. So high carb, moderate protein immediately after exercise in liquid form, right? So a lot of times athletes are not hungry, right? How many of you have experienced that? You trained hard, maybe a long bike ride, maybe you've done a Spartan event, and you don't want to eat anything right after, but you could down something, like a shake to replenish yourself and to get the recovery process going. And then you want a regular meal, whole food meal within 4 hours of your previous meal, unless you're exercising again the same day. Maybe you have a basketball game an hour later, then of course you don't want to do that. So it's just going to depend on the situation. So here are some examples of your post-exercise meal that's high carb to protein, 2 to 3 carbs to 1 protein. That's the ratio, just to give you some ideas, which is why I also put them on the slide. These are some of what a high carb meal would look like for post-exercise or even pre. Now, fluids are equally, if not more important, right? To make sure that the athlete is properly hydrated. So these are just some general guidelines. 2 hours before what you want to consume, 15 minutes before you want a little bit. Same goal. You want the stomach empty. You don't want to have to pee during the competition, right? Every 15 minutes during, you're going to be sipping. And then after exercise, you want to replace. And this is really important. A lot of times in the high school, college, and a pro level, especially football, you're going to want to weigh pre, weigh after, and then you want to replace 16 ounces for every pound loss, or until your urine is pale. And we'll teach athletes on an actual visual scale, what they want their color to look like. And it's really pale, like sort of like lemonade type of coloring. And then on daily basis, how much do you consume? I like to, teach athletes, again, look at how often you're urinating and if it's the right pale yellow color.